Hello everybody and welcome to the streets of Long Beach as we get the Radical Sim Racing European Championship here underway for season 2025. What a location to start off the 2025 campaign here with the streets of Long Beach. The walls oh so close, the speeds oh so low, and overtaking chances perhaps even lower. It's myself, Ian O'Leary, Brad Dalton alongside me taking you through this first round of the European Championship. Good to have you alongside me for this opening round. Brad, what a venue to start off a new season.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Long Beach here in the USA, Firestone Turn, Shoreline Drive, Pine Avenue, and Toyota. This is something that I think is going to really push these radical cars to the radical limits. These cars, a lot of fun, actually. When I was doing a little bit of research about them, they're actually reasonably priced for being what they are and basically being a race car for people who want a dedicated race car. This is going to be a fun series to follow through on this European run, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, sort of a slow speed mini prototype, if you like, and a good way to get into that kind of racing. But it is also a sort of series of its own, if you like, and there's plenty of series of their own in this type of car. It's fantastic to follow along. Let's get into the race then, shall we? And indeed the schedule for the season. We don't actually know the second half of the calendar, the races that are going to be taking, especially after the summer break, but also the last one before it. Long Beach will start off our season, though, with the Nürburgring to come after that, then Suzuka, Ultra Park, Bathurst. So those first four tracks, I would say, very difficult in terms of overtaking just for the moment. We will have more on the final parts of the season, the final 5 rounds, when we get it. It's also worth noting that the Americas Championship, which is starting up very shortly after this one, not tonight, but shortly in the next few weeks, that does have a different calendar and schedule to it. This time round will be at the Nordschleife next week for the opening round of that championship. So make sure you stay tuned here on RaceSpotTV for that, although it will be in the American evening about 1 in the morning Central European time. This is our venue though, Brad, just under 2 miles. Such slow speed round here that you almost forget because you're passing by the building so quickly, but it is an iconic circuit, that's for sure, to start our season.
That it is. Long Beach has been around since 1975. It's very recognizable. It's kind of evolved around, but that Shoreline Drive curve is always that familiar constant through IndyCar and IMSA and Acura taking over the naming rights in 2019. So this is a track that has evolved in a lot of ways with the cityscape around it. But this 11 corner track is one that you should know, you should love, and it kind of goes under that binder of tracks that everyone should be able to put a lap on. I definitely think this is one that everyone needs to be comfortable with, but that final hairpin, so dangerous.
Absolutely, we're going to be seeing some danger through there, that's for sure. If you're not sure where we're located geographically, by the way, this is sort of South LA, if you want to look at it that way. This is the what's up for grabs, really, this season. So there is a driver champion in each class. We've got Pro and Am to come in European and America's Championships. 12 months iRacing subscription, free entry next season, and qualifying for the World Finals, which comes up in November for this season. The second place gets free entry next year and also a qualification into the World Finals, as do the top 7. That's where you need to be. If you're in the next 7, so P8 to 14, then you qualify for the Last Chance World Finals qualifier, and that could get you, depending on where you finish on that night, into the World Finals for 2025 in late November. The teams champions get a track in iRacing per driver and free entry to next season, as do the vice team champions in each class as well. As I mentioned, there are Pro and Am drivers. We'll keep you abreast of who is where in both Pro and Am over the course of the European Championship and when we start the America's Championship in 1 week's time as well. But the drivers are making their way onto the circuit. 10 minutes only and nearly 40 drivers to get themselves onto the circuit and indeed find themselves some clean air. Good to see a few webcams, by the way, of a few of these drivers. If you are a driver in this series, you're more than welcome to show us your setup and show us yourselves while you're driving around, and we'll bring those up throughout the day, that is for sure. But just 10 minutes, a track this short, a track this busy, it's going to be quite an exciting session, I would imagine, and an important qualifying session, setting you up for the hour-long race we've got coming up tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And that hour-long race all sets up, you get 5 laps here in 10 minutes to try to put down a time, do the best you can here, and get things around. But that 60-minute race, you have to remember it's 60 minutes with 2 mandatory pit stops. 2 mandatory pit stops throughout 60 minutes. So you've got to remember that going in. But at a track here like Long Beach, qualifying more important than ever, because sometimes the difference between avoiding an incident and being caught in the middle of an incident is where you're at on the track. Usually I would say, you know, qualifying isn't the end all be all. Long Beach is the exception to the rule. This is one that I'd really be focused on qualifying today.
That's Franek Sikorsky. We saw him on Tuesday night, actually, on RaceSpotTV, if you were watching. But he's here tonight in the Radicals in the AM class. They're denoted by the red numbers on the left-hand side. The pros are in the green. And we'll update you on who's where of these first round of time. Sikorsky getting in a bit of traffic here, though. It's exactly my point about this session, really. It's 10 minutes, which is not very long. And finding free track space on a 2-mile circuit with about 40 others is difficult. Sikorsky not letting himself get too frustrated. And he will continue and indeed complete this lap, but with a bit of a slipstream assistance right to the line. But that surely would have just held him back. Hasn't held him back too much, though. He takes the early and pole position here after the first lap.
I was going to say, difficult to find track position and clean track. I'd almost say impossible at this rate. Really, you're just almost reacting to what's around here. But look at the view in this radical as you go through Long Beach. This track is narrow, and I can't explain how quick the walls can jump out and kind of bite you as you go through, as we ride on board here with Sikorsky on board as we go through. You're watching those braking zones. You're really trying to just nail things in, and it's all about those millimeters to the wall. It's not even you're looking for gaps of inches. These drivers are going to be pushing these radicals to look for the millimeters to the wall that they can find, because that is where you really eke out lap time as we go through here down this long stretch. You see the braking zones deep on the brakes in this radical go through and continue to follow around. We're on the back end of this lap, so now it's just a matter of nail it here through Indy left, and then you're going to take this hard hairpin onto the main stretch down Shoreline Drive through Bridgestone and just send it through flat on the throttle until you get to Toyota.
The best overtaking chance on the circuit, many would say. I would say in towards turn number 1, as Sikorsky does go back to the top. Luke Crowley had it briefly beforehand, but has just had that taken away again by Sikorsky. At the front of the field, Christopher Train is currently leading the way ahead of Lasse Sorensen. Then it's Anthony Enge in the 3rd place, followed by Kim Andre Björklund and Havar Gulliksen to round out the top 5. And then you start to get into the AM drivers, or at least the AM pole sitter, Franek Sikorsky, who we've just seen out there on the circuit in that pole position. Dennis Kirakopoulos gets himself up to 11th place. Meanwhile, in the 34 car, he just moves on up. It's going to be a very busy session, by the way. Gulliksen moves his way up in the number 3 car. That's 2nd place for him now. Alexander Skaret also into the top 10 now. 7th place for him. This is George Gonzaga in the 13th place at the moment in 113, looking to move on up into the top 10, which I think is where his target is going to be for this qualifying session. We'll see as he makes his way over the line. It's a second away, and it will be just on the fringes of the top 10, if not in it. Well, doesn't look like it counts, so he will stay 14th for the moment. So busy. Soli Rattanen now makes his way through the final few corners as well. I've noticed some bit further down have decided to take a bit of a back seat early on here. Christoph and Sebastian Lipp, who are both good drivers, are currently timeless in the session, as is James Barry, who's a pretty big contender for this race as well. So some of the big names choosing to wait, and that might be a good idea. It's just to see if the traffic dies down a little bit later on in the session.
I don't disagree with it at all, personally, of giving it that time, see if things go through and sort themselves out, because if they do, it really makes things easier on yourself. Let drivers kind of run those lap times out early, because the lap times aren't bad at all. And if you have drivers going out very early, putting in their 5 laps just, right at the start of the session, if you wait until that back end, you're going to have less traffic, cleaner track to go through and go around. And I think it's a very wise move for all the drivers drivers deciding to do that and go through as we ride on board here with Soltero, who is just wrestling this car around. It's amazing to me how compliant these radicals can be as they go through. And for those of you who want to own one, I was looking this up before. The base price for a Radical SR10 for a custom order, this is the SR10 XXR from Radical Motorsports, $180,000 US. I spec'd one out the way I wanted, and I'm looking at about $203,000 US for the carbon fiber bits and the custom graphics and the things that I want. So yeah, if you've got some extra money laying around, Radical can be a good purchase for you.
Got a lot of extra money, I would say. Out of the final corner for Oscar Soltero, and he is going to grab a little bit of slipstream here. Looked like he was coming in the pit lane briefly, but no, he's just shortening his distance to the line. He looks up to the top left to see where the time puts him, and it's the top 5 for the moment. Doesn't look delighted, but he's not unimpressed either with that lap time there, so he can deal with that. Bjorklund up to second place. Christoph Lipp, though, has got to 4th, and he is in the number 1 car, the coveted number 1 car. We'll see how much further up the field he can get in these next few moments. He's just making his way through the middle sector at the moment. I think he's just off West Shoreline Drive at the moment, looking for East Seaside Way out of turn number 8 at the moment. Moving on up, there goes Luke Crowley. That could be the pole time in the AM class, although there is still a minute and a half to go. Here's Howard Gullikson as well, as Christoph Lipp returns to the pit lane. Gullikson looking to find just half a tenth of a second that would perhaps see him onto pole.
Yeah, and seeing him on the pole there would be amazing, but the times through the session are so close already. 37 cars separated by just over 2.5 seconds. It's very impressive. The top 17 currently within a second of each other, so you're looking for just tenths and hundredths of time as we go through. The fact that you are 600ths of a second off right now for Gullikson is just, it's so hard to find. You'd be surprised at what one little thing can make or break you by half a tenth of a second around this track as we come through. Is this going to be enough time? I don't believe it is, not at all, but looks like maybe one more shot to go through here to try to find some time forward.
There is just that little bit of time left on the clock, but is there any lap times left in these guys? Sebastian Lipp moves up to 5th place with that time, so right in behind Christoph Lipp, which has a nice bit of symmetry to it down there. Here's Franek Sikorsky out of the corner. He just grimaces slightly out of the final corner. Maybe he won't be going any faster this time round. Well, having said that, he is going to go a bit quicker. He goes up to 12th place, even if he didn't look delighted. Here's Bjorklund. Oh, that might be good enough. It is. Kim-Andre Bjorklund, with just seconds remaining in the session, puts himself up towards the top of the standings, and Christopher Travain will have to start from the outside of the front row by the looks of things. Howard Gullikson is just coming into the final sector right now as well, but it looks like Bjorklund might well have just taken this with a very late lap time. He might well have just taken pole position here. Kim-Andre Bjorklund will see if he can. Meanwhile, Howard Gullikson now coming up towards the end of his lap in the 3 car, currently in 3rd place. Can he find the tenth of a second required? He can't, and he will stay in 3rd, just ahead of Christoph Lipp and Stefan Lipp as well, who have got themselves up towards the front of the field early on here, which is good news for them. The two brothers in 4th and 5th, and indeed they've swapped places. Sebastian Lipp moves up to 4th place ahead of Christoph for the moment. This is Anthony Engelendorf, and he's now through the final couple of corners as well, inside the top 10 for the moment. I thought he was taking a tighter line actually out the final corner, but he will continue on up towards the line. He's down to 10th now as Andreas Frederich gets himself up into 6th place. Where's Anthony End going to get to? It's going to be same place as before. Here's Louis Gregg in the 16th place for now, and will stay around there and stay down the field. Looks like Luke Crowley has taken the AM pole there. So at the end of one of the most important qualifying sessions of the season, comes to a close.
That was an exciting qualifying there through 10 minutes. That was a very, very rapid run. I mean, you really had to be on your P's and Q's here, because these drivers here in this European Championship have come out to play early. They are very much setting the foot down and going through. Ewan, this is going to be a barnstormer for the next 60 minutes.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the grid for this opening round of the Radical SimRacing European Championship here for 2025. And it's Kim-Andre Bjorklund who's taken the pole position. It's Christopher Travain who's taken second. Argio Coating's second and third, by the way. with Harvard Gullikson just in behind. Sebastian Lipp leading the Inert Racing team into 4th, 5th and 6th. Christoph in 5th, and then Andreas Friedrichs, who is in 6th in the number 14 car. 7th place will be Oscar Saltero for Nix Esports, with Luke Crowley taking pole in the AMS on 8th place. Then it's Lasse Sorensen, and at the end rounds out the top 10. Sully Rattinen and James Barry are on row 6. James Barry quite a long way down for the reigning European champion. It is Kjetil Larsen in 13th, but Franek Sikorsky 2nd in the AMS, then George Gonzaga, then Louis Gregg, who's 3rd in the AMS. Adam Locke and Alexander Skurrit round out row 9, with Davide Tatari and Rudolf Nagel rounding out the top 20. Eric Benson and Dennis Kirikopoulos is in 22nd, ahead of Mika Henrik Hukkelen, and David Rolliston sharing row 12 with him. Mats Kjellström-Backen is in 25th, ahead of Robert Walker, with Stefan Mellis and David Niemek in 28th. It is Gabriel Berger and Ivan Bremer in 30th. It's quite a long way down for Ivan Bremer. Damien G, is in 31st, ahead of Glenn Andre Christensen, with Menno de Graaf 33rd and Stefan Sevier alongside. Graham Matthew and Henry Hawlings are on row 18, ahead of Guy Robertson at the back end of the field. I did see a couple more in practice, but maybe it's entirely possible I was seeing things. I think we have got our full complement of starters. With 37. Here's the track conditions. 20 past 6 at the moment in Sim, virtual standard time, as we like to say, on the 1st of April. So even in an hour-long race, we're not going to be seeing any dark running like we have in the officials sometime this week. Hour-long race gets us underway as the Radical SimRacing Series European style gets underway here at Long Beach, and it's immediately side by side of the line between Christopher Terrain and Kim-Andre Bjorkman, the pole sitter, who's getting mugged a little bit on the outside line here. Here comes Terrain on the way towards turn number 1, and he's got the lead here. Can his teammate follow through perhaps? Gullikson looking for a way through into the fountain, but he's going to have to tuck into line. In fact, the top 5 or 6 do so, but the rest of them will battle side by side. It's Christopher Terrain, though, who takes an early lead and takes that away from Kim-Andre Bjorkman, the pole sitter.
That was an amazing start. That standing start came out of nowhere. Everybody was ready to go. A little bit of a slide there, power slide out, and everyone, I think, gets away with it here. Everybody's going to try to find their P's and Q's early on here around this Long Beach circuit. You've got to be very careful and comfortable as we go through. We're following James Barry here back in 12th place going through, but as these drivers sort of settle into this single file running, we'll see everyone start to find a rhythm, find a comfort level, and really just start to size out competition. Remember, we are just starting out this season. This is going to be a big season for everyone. There's lots of new faces, new names, and you just sort of, you're feeling out everyone at this point to see who's running with who has the pace, who doesn't, who needs to work their way forward early, and just kind of get a feel for things through this 60-minute race.
It's a long, long way to November, that's for sure. There's a lot of racing between now and then. In towards turn number 1. Harvard Gullikson having a look on the inside here. This is probably the best chance for an overtake you're going to get, but not that time round for Gullikson. There are the movers and shakers on your screen on the left-hand side. Lasse Sorensen with the best move forward so far. Qualified 9th. He's up to 6th. Kjetil Larsen, meanwhile, gets up to 12th after passing James Barry on this lap, who had held where he began, but not anymore. Oh, we've got trouble. We've got trouble out of turn number 1. I think Damien G's involved. He's certainly dropping down the field with Stefan Mellis and Menno de Graaf also dropping down the field. It is Mellis in number 53 who's dropped down. I can tell you as well that Gabriel Berger, by the way, has gone back to pit lane on lap 1 as well. We will get word and a view as to what happened to him as well with some replays in a few moments' time, but it was always likely to happen. I guess some will be surprised it took until lap 2 to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does seem like everyone's really, really playing it timid here early at Long Beach. I don't see anything too wild happening. Ivan Bremer here is going through for Saab Racing, currently in 20th place, now dropping back into 20th place, actually, as we come to the hairpin. That's the dangerous part of the hairpin. When traffic buckles up like that, that's when things can start to get wild, and lots of cars in the pit early.
Yeah, lots of pit stops. We'll explain that in a second, but that was Dennis Kirikopoulos getting hit there by Rudolf Nagel down in towards the final hairpin, and there was a car lifting off the ground. It was pretty fierce down there. These guys do, by the way, get a faster pair in this series, so most of the drivers will be doing that right now. There are 2 mandatory pit stops, though, in this series. partly to allow people to stay in the running, even if they had a problem on lap 1, as Stefan Mellis had. Let's go back a bit further and see it again. He just gets loose on the way in, hits the rear end with the tyre wall, and then I think a few others came through to collect him as well. So pit stops having to be had there for a few drivers. There's Mellis going for the slide, and I can't see who he gets hit by, but it's pretty severe stuff. And Mellis has to come back to pit lane at the end of that lap then. Although Mellis actually carried on. But James Barry came in, along with Matt Gelströmbacken and Ivan Bremer as well, who came in. Gabriel Berger came in at the end of lap number 1. So 2 mandatory pit stops means that they can stay in the race past one faster pair. It's not ideal for them pitting on that one, but they are staying in the running. They're not out of it just yet.
Yeah, and having that faster pair in your pocket is always really nice on a track like Long Beach or any circuit, really, when you look ahead at our calendar, because of the fact that it does give you that little bit of breathing room that if you have that lap 1 incident, something comes up. This is David Nemec, and this is who hit. Oh, that's the Long Beach issue. There is no avoiding sometimes. You just kind of... you end up with that. There's a car spinning in front, and it's hit the brakes and hope you stop. And if you don't, well, you kind of assess and go forward, and you take your faster pair at the end of lap 2, and then you just have to keep your nose clean for the rest of the race, which is sometimes easier said than done.
Oh, Kim-Andre Bjorklund is dropping down the field. He's gone deep down at turn number 8 there. Just before East Seaside Way, he's gone very deep here, and look at him losing his top 5 position here. Down the inside goes Andreas Friedrich and Oscar Soltero. Soltero does make it through into 7th place. Bjorklund down to 8th after getting pole position for this race, this opening round of the Radical SimRacing European Championship here in 2025. And Bjorklund suddenly is dropping through the field. Meanwhile, into pit lane for Christoph Lipp in the number 1 car. This is what happened to Bjorklund. Oh, he slid into the wall and hit it pretty hard.
That was a good little tank slapper there. Hopefully for Bjorklund, there is not too much damage on that Radical SR10 as we come through. There's a better view of the tank slapper. I think very lucky to get away with no suspension damage, honestly, as Christoph Lipp is in through the pits. I didn't think I saw Christoph Lipp take any damage, but clearly some drivers are finding the walls here at Long Beach to kind of be reaching out and just grabbing those radicals a little bit harder than I think they expect. I've heard some dings here and there through different camera angles. We've seen little pops of spark here and there as they try to navigate through, and one hit a little too hard like that and it can give you a meatball. And if you get that meatball, you have no choice but to come in at that point and take that faster pair, and unfortunately do that early and then just play it more conservative to the end. Look at this battle in 14th.
We'll continue to keep an eye on all of these battles at the moment. The starting fuel, by the way, for these cars is a little bit lower than the maximum you can put in a tank. So the starting fuel, they're given 20 litres to begin with, but the capacity is 40, and so you can pit in, and there is a sort of a point to pitting in early, in case you're confused as well about the 2 mandatory pit stops. He's still in the game, although it does slightly narrow your options later. Here comes Kim-Andre Bjorklund also into pit lane. Surprised he didn't end up having to do it last time round, to be honest. He now follows Christoph Lipp and the rest of them into pit lane. The problem is, I think, for Lipp and some of the others, is the traffic they're going to end up in. They are at the moment in clean air, but it surely won't be that long before they catch the back end of the field and start to have to make some overtakes.
Absolutely. Looking at lap times, last lap time from our race leader was a 1:14.9 from Taviran, and when I look back, they have a 60-second gap back to 37th place, so we're not that far from seeing the land of starting to see that lap traffic and kind of see, you know, that sort of lap chaos start to ensue. And what's going to become the problem with that is anytime you pit after that, you're just coming out into traffic. We're hitting this point where the field is spread out across an entire lap. It doesn't matter what you do if you pit now. There's not really a pit stop window like you would think of where I can pit and come back out in some cleaner air and keep things going. You're in traffic ahead, you're in traffic behind. It's kind of a, 6 one way, half dozen the other. It doesn't matter what you do here. You're stuck. And seeing how they overcome that, how the teams decide to navigate that strategy of traffic is going to be, I think, either the highlight or the low point for some of these teams.
Oh, that's a bit of a slide for Soltero, but he gets away with it through turn 1. And now into the fountain. the iconic point on this circuit, I would describe it as. Not many other circuits in the world that have a flower bed on the inside of one of its most famous corners. But we do here. Davide Tattare's gone off down in the fourth. Oh dear, it's down to turn one, that looks like. He was running fourth in the AM class, and I think he might still be, but he's certainly further down the overall standings than he was previously. Tattare was overtaken by a couple of AMs, actually, excuse me. Mika Hukkinen, Louis Gregg and David Rosden all got through as he just outbroke himself and chose not to hit the wall. Probably the smart choice.
Yeah, that is the one thing with Long Beach is there is limited runoff area. So if you're going into the braking zone and you find that you're not going to be able to stop to make the turn, you have a choice to make, as we see Adam Locke here. Oh, that's one of the options. And then, misery. Just compounding misery there, getting tapped in the back of that Radical, sent into the wall from the car behind as he hit the wall, lost the pace, and you really don't have room to do that. But yeah, with the corners here at Long Beach, Ewan, it is really a case of if you miss the braking zone and you're a little too hot into the corner, you do one of two things. You commit to the turn and hope you don't hit the wall, or you just decide to go straight, hit the runoff area, flip a 180, and then get back out on track.
Locke is now last, by the way, in the field. He is back out onto the circuit again now, at least, but he is way down in last position. This is Guy Robertson. Oh, slide out of turn one and a clash with the wall as well for Robertson. He was one of those drivers who was up towards the front a little bit earlier on. He's now 35th in the field and still hasn't made a stop yet. That's Soli Rattanen sliding in towards turn one. Oh, and just avoided by everybody there, but you can see the rear end suspension damage already. There's some lap cars already. So Ivan Bremer and Adam Locke, having made their pit stops, are already a lap down in the field. And so that's also a problem around here. Normally, you don't have the problem of pitting and ending up a lap down, but they've certainly got that problem this time around. And with 50 minutes to go, we are already getting the first signs of traffic that is going to remain a factor throughout the remainder of this race.
I think the one thing to really look at, though, is the fact that from everyone 27th down has made a pit stop, starting with Christoph Lipp, as we see somebody else, Henry Horlings, has cooked it in and, again, use that runoff area, play it safe, and then just flip the car around, or Austin Powers 7-point turn it, however you need to do to get back around. Everyone from 27th place, Christoph Lipp, back has already made one pit stop. Everyone ahead hasn't. So realistically, if they're trying to play the pit stop strategy game, they are kind of in a good spot here. That is the one thing I will say for them as they go. It's just the matter of what are they going to do? How are they going to fit in that second stop to run through? Starting on that half fuel tank, they fill up to full fuel. They run that full fuel out, and then they can maybe short pit to the end and just take limited amounts of fuel. But you also have people who are going to run that 20 out, get the 40 and run through, and then that second pit stop, they take less fuel. It's a big game of cat and mouse at this point, and realistically, we won't know the results of it until a little bit further into the hour.
Henry Horlings going off there. I can't help but blaming Isaac Brink, who's in the YouTube chat, just telling him he's done a good job so far. Unfortunately, the next thing I saw was him going deep in towards turn 8, which is, I'm not saying there's any interference going on there, but, coincidence. Into the pit lane for, it's the lap car, excuse me, just trying to get out of the way of this battle for 14th place at the moment. We're enough Nigel at the front of it. I think it was Nigel that hit Robertson, was it? On the way, or somebody else, whoever got the wall after going in a bit deep in towards turn number 1. But Nigel seems to have got away without any sort of damage, and so is still running in 14th place ahead of a couple of AM drivers, Mika Henrik Hulkinen and also Louis Gregg, who are battling away for the last spot on the podium now.
Yeah, and one thing I will add with this AM and Pro class, you may see some changes in the classes after the first couple of rounds. Kind of giving everyone a little bit of a chance to feel things out and make sure everyone's classified appropriately. So you might see some drivers flip between Pro and AM between rounds. If you see that, no harm, no foul. Just making sure that everything's as even as it can be here as we ride on board with Louis Gregg with No Limit Sim Racing Academy in this 3:22, who is just very politely sitting in 16th place, 24 seconds off the lead, but is very much not slouching at all. This Radical, very quick around this track and very much has some strong pace here around Long Beach as they now go down the main straight yet again here.
Yet again in towards turn number 1. Struggling to get past the 4 car at the moment of Mika Henrik Hulkonen. He is a Finnish driver, by the way, Hulkonen. Just over 3k iRating, which is right around where most of the AMs are this time, this season around. 3.2k is Hulkonen. He's actually got one of the best iRatings of anyone in the AM field. Luke Crowley is the only one who's got better, and he's currently leading the class. So there is Hulkonen, one of the privateers. He hasn't got a team, and that is the case for certainly more of the AMs than it is for the pros. It's certainly not the majority. Most drivers, whether they are pro or AM, do have a team, but he has gone with just with himself for this series, and why on earth not? Out of turn number 8, you can see the sunshine in the background. Thank goodness it's not going the other way, otherwise we won't be able to see where they're going in towards the next corner. This is the braking zone for turn 9, and Louis Gregg again not close enough. This is the problem when you start to settle into a race at Long Beach. It does get a bit tricky to overtake from time to time.
That it does, and the trickiness of overtaking is what I think makes Long Beach so exciting for me, because you end up, you're not going to see anyone take a late opportunistic, out of nowhere pass. You're going to set that pass up really starting the lap prior. You're feeling out the car ahead. You're trying to find out who's where. David Rolston into the pits here for Tiger Racing, and that Radical going through. Looks like taking a pit stop about 15 minutes in. Don't blame him there. It's probably a good time to do so. But with the passing here at Long Beach, it's not the easiest, but it's also not the hardest that you'll see. You'll see drivers really take their time, set things up, and when they make the pass, you have to make it stick, because the problem with how narrow the street circuit is, if you are going for the pass, you don't make it stick, and you end up in this drawn-out battle, you are just inviting every car behind you to catch you, and every car ahead of you to open up more of a gap. So when you go for the pass, you have to be committed to it, whether it's turn 1, the hairpin, anywhere you decide to make that pass, it just has to stick.
Now then, Gullickson's into the pit lane. Christoph Lipp still has managed to get himself out of traffic for quite a lot of the day, actually. So going to be very interesting to see where Gullickson and Crowley come out in relation to Christoph Lipp here. As we're about 15 minutes through, I would expect everybody to have been in the next 5 or 10 minutes or so. I think we are going to see a flurry of pit stops, as you were saying, in these next few moments. And that has been really kicked off here by Herbert Gullickson, who was running second place at the time, ahead of Christoph Lipp's brother, Sebastian Lipp. There is Christoph, I believe, down at the bottom of your screen. He's the reigning World Finals champion, by the way, which is why he's carrying number 1. Out of the pit lane comes Gullickson. He should be ahead, I would say, but it's a bit of a warning shot to everybody else if Lipp gets out in front. And in fact, his pit stop was a bit shorter, so maybe it would make sense for him to be ahead. Let's see, though. It's going to be an almost dead heat. Don't forget, when you're coming out the pit lane here, it's quite a long way around the outside of turn number 1. Here comes Lipp on the inside line, and through he goes. So it's a good early sign there for Christoph Lipp that this early stop has worked, but he needs to take 5 seconds additional fuel in the final pit stop compared to Gullickson, and that will sort them back the other way round, you would imagine.
You would think so, but this is also the first time that we're seeing Gullickson really fight through traffic and not be in a demanding position here, as Sebastian Lipp is now into the pits here. We'll see if Lipp and Lipp work with each other at all and try to make things work together. A lot more people into the pits here. Frederick Sorensen, Larson in, Gonzaga is in. So we are starting to see that little bit of a pit stop party come through. Everybody into the pits together. Let's see how long Sebastian Lipp is in the box here, and it does look like this is going to be a little bit longer of a stop potentially. Through the box, out. Let's see where they come out in relation.
Yes, 12 seconds, as it was for Sorensen. So there's a bit of wiggle room here. There's a, oh dear, someone comes in there quite late. I think that was Christensen there, Glenn Andre Christensen. So Sebastian Lipp's going to be ahead of these guys, but his pit stop was also shorter even than Christoph Lipp's. So that's a very interesting length of stop for Sebastian Lipp, who clearly wants some track position. He's ahead of Stefan Chivaria, but that doesn't really matter. We're still waiting for the 224 to come in. So that doesn't matter too much. Here is Kjell Larsen in 11.7 seconds in the box. That's sort of the minimum that we've seen so far, but we've seen plenty of drivers doing just the minimum 11 seconds. And now Christophe Travain is in. So he's had the advantage of actually seeing the pit stops from everybody else. He might decide, based on that, to shorten this pit stop compared to what he would have done otherwise. Just depends how desperate he is to keep the track position that comes with the race lead.
Yeah, and that is, I think, the million-dollar question. You know, you kind of, when you have the mandatory two-stop, you have two options with your fuel here. You can do long fuel in the middle stint, or you can short the middle stint and extend your final stint. Everyone's going to have a preference for what they want to do here. It does look like that number 58 maybe opting to do the shorter lane time, 11.7 seconds in the box. We'll see where they come out. If it's in a good position, it's going to be close.
Oh, sorry, he just smacked the wall on the exit of the pit lane there. I don't think he would have done too much damage, but he just accidentally clogged the wall coming out of pit lane. He will keep track position by a couple of seconds. He actually could have taken on a bit more fuel, to be honest, and still got into the lead. But anyway, he's decided he definitely wants to keep the lead ahead of Sebastian Lipp, and you can see why. And so he's taken just 11.7 seconds of a pit stop. So long stops this time round, who may have been slightly blindsided by some of this. How about Gullickson? 18.2 seconds of the box, and that could be a problem for him. He might be able to go almost as long as possible here, since everybody did less than 20 minutes in that stint there, about, what, 15 minutes for Gullickson. He might be able to go to about 15 minutes to go in that case, and then take on about 11 seconds a bit later on. We'll see how it all works out, but very interesting opening pit stops underway. Eric Benson, meanwhile, is now in 4th place in the AM field. Here he is, just in behind Denis Kourakopoulos and then Davide Tatari, who's just up in front of them, by the way. Tatari, after having a moment at turn 1, has taken a short pit stop to sort of get back to where he was before. 10.4 seconds in the box compared to 21 for Benson. So there really is some variation, and it's created a lot of battles like this as well. James Barry has rocketed up the field. Only 11.9 seconds in the box for him, though, and he is on the march here, looking for 6th place.
Yeah, Barry looking very feisty here against Frederick as we go through and follow them around down the main stretch here, heading towards iconic Pine Avenue here. Hard on the brakes. We're going to go down into turn 1. Move, done, dusted. That's a cool way to make a move into turn 1. Just very pretty. Now around the fountain we go. And is there going to be a fight back is my question there for that number 14. It doesn't look like anything at the moment. And they do also have Borkland in the rear view behind. Looks like they have a slower car slightly ahead that is struggling a little bit with the walls. And keep hearing the little wall taps, and it looks like it is that car ahead of them. What will they do to get past? Well, it's a very simple get out of the way of the faster traffic and hold on to it.
Looks a bit like Mellis to me. It may not be. I think it was, though, in number 53. And he continues to try, or whoever it is, continues to try and get out of the way. Did see someone off at turn 1 as well, by the way, as James Barry was getting through on Freddie. Either that, there was just a lot of smoke from someone having a bit of a moment up ahead, but it looked to me like someone was off at turn number 1. You can see the scrapes down the outside of Kim-Andre Bjorkland's car. He was the pole sitter for this race, of course, and now he's down to 8th place, unfortunately. This is not a great place for him to be, considering he started on pole. Barry made his move in towards turn number 1 last time round. Is he going to be overtaken this time round towards turn 1? No. Christophe Lipp, meanwhile, after a side-by-side moment with Lasse Sorensen, has gone off the road just up the fountain section, was it, or is it at turn number 1? It was certainly in the first sector, as that's where the leaders are working their way through at the moment. Lasse Sorensen, the vice champion from the World Finals 1 year ago in 2024, perhaps has come together with the man who beat him at the end of 2024, Christophe Lipp, in the number 1 car. There's Sorensen. He's up into the podium places with Gullickson just in behind. He'll be quite pleased about this, but Christophe Lipp loses a couple of positions in that moment between the two of them.
Yeah, and as we watch Sorensen through here, it's going to be interesting to see what happened there with Christophe Lipp, because Christophe Lipp has looked very comfortable and confident in this radical around Long Beach, has looked very comfortable. A lot of drivers with this fixed setup run saying that the suspension was very stiff But it seems like everyone's kind of adjusted to that and adapted to that. The fixed setup, I do find, really kind of equalizes things, and it forces the drivers to get the most out of the car, and you tend to see that too, especially here with this pro field near the front. You're going to see a lot of the drivers just find the fixed setup work very well. This is on board with Christoph Lipp. This is the moment, was looking through to the outside down towards turn one. It looks like maybe a little bit of a tap and just overcooked the brakes.
So, was that because of the contact or despite of the contact? That is interesting. The two went head-to-head in 2024, immediately locking horns in 2025 as well. On the first round of the Radical Sim Racing European Championship here at Long Beach. That was an interesting moment. Lasse Sorensen, though, will take the third position. Gulliksen, then Christoph Lipp, who is in the top five. This is it again. Now, does the contact cause this or not? Well, I'm not sure it does, actually. I think Lipp was going to go off anyway, but there was certainly a slight bit of contact to start the season between those two. Very tasty early on scrap for the third place it was at the time, and Lasse Sorensen now holds that position. Gulliksen was the car you saw going through, and Christoph Lipp's going to have to return and come back again.
I mean, if you're going to put the champion and the vice champion side by side to each other, and you already know that they're both looking to make a statement early in this year, I guarantee you, if you ask either one of them, they're going to say 2025 is my year here in Radical Sim Racing. You know it's going to start here early on because they're both making that statement early, and that's just a preview of things to come through the year. It's a long way to November, but memories are long. They had a hard fight last year. Came down to a very, very hard battle, and they're going to go ahead and just pick up where they left off here in 2025, and we'll watch that, I'm sure, more than once through the season.
Ivan Bremer still trying to work his way back through the field after some difficult early moments. Glenn-Andre Christensen will then be left to be the leader of this group. Not sure Bremer's going to be under too much pressure from those in behind. David Roston and Robert Walker are the two drivers who are immediately behind in this battle. There's quite the way down the field. Oh, Walker's gone off and he's gone back to pit lane. Walker in the background went straight off there. We were watching the battle, and unfortunately he's gone deep and straight off. Franz Sikorsky, by the way, it seems to be out of the race, or at least is having a very long pit stop, along with David Niemiec as well, is having a very long stop or is out of the race. So it'd be a shame if Rob Walker were to join them, having a very long stop indeed, but he has had to tow back to pit lane. It was at turn number one, and it looks like there was a problem. Let's see what happened in towards the first braking zone of this lap. It is Walker, just having a bit of a lock-up and ending up nosing into the wall and retiring.
Again, you hit that point where you think you can make that turn. You're already into the turn and you see the wall coming, but there's nothing you can do with that. And so you just end up in the wall. Unfortunately, a head-on hit in the wall. The Radical, it's a small, light prototype car. It's very, very fast. This is a car that can do a sub 2-minute lap at Silverstone. But the problem with being a light, fast prototype, they don't take kindly to a head-on hit into a tire barrier at turn one at speed. So you kind of just end up in a moment like that, and it's unfortunate to see having to tow there for Robert Walker. Hopefully can get back out on track. Will be a number of laps down if Robert Walker brings this car back out and can get this car back going. If Robert Walker hasn't used his fast repair already, which I'm unsure of, we'll see if Robert Walker gets back out. Andreas Friedrich here battling with Borkland yet again down the main straight. We see these two going through. Drafting is kind of here in the Radicals, Ewan. It's not something that adds really a lot, but it doesn't not add something, if my English makes sense there. It gives you a little bit of extra speed, but not the most speed in the world.
That made sense to me. There will certainly be circuits where it matters more. Around here, you're only going to pick up that little bit. You're just not going very quick around here, to be honest with you. You do often forget, because when we're on board here, I mean, look, it looks like we're flying past everything, which of course we are, compared to what would normally be the speed around these streets on a normal public day. However, realistically, when you put this on a racetrack and you start comparing the speeds, it's actually a pretty low speed circuit, especially when you're not on the front straight. Anywhere else, and it's pretty slow speed stuff by race car standards. So the slipstream at that kind of speed not going to be having as much of an effect as it will at some of the other races this season. And we will be on the north side pretty soon for the America's Championship, and it's going to be a big slipstream down the back straight, for example, and in many other places as well. It's going to be a lot more high speed than what we're seeing around here. Big sun in your eyes moment around the first small bend there and towards the first braking zone, thankfully shielded by the buildings, but just flickering about a little bit here is the sun as we're into the proper sunset here. Thankfully there are enough buildings to sort of shield you most of the way round, but you can tell in some of these moments where there's not buildings in the way, it's a real big factor at this time of night. We're racing proper sunset here, coming up to about 7 p.m. virtual standard time at the moment.
Yeah, there's something iconic about Long Beach sunset here, following it through and around, especially when you're going down Shoreline Drive, down Bridgestone, down towards that Turn 1 Toyota, and you're driving into that sunset. As we saw on board there, you really can't see anything sometimes, but it is just enough trees, just enough building that it sort of blocks things through it and makes your life a little bit easier. There's not really street lights here that are going to save your day. You see them through, but they're not going to do near enough to make a difference for a race car to really add to your day and add things through. So that sunset really kind of adding things. The shadows can mess with your perception, your braking zone spotting. It can really change things as compared to if you were to run this track in the middle of the day. Plus, the other thing to think about is as the sun goes down, the track cools, the air cools, the tires are going to get a little bit grippier. The track surface is going to get a little bit grippier. You're going to get a little bit more out of this radical than you would as we get this beautiful overhead shot here of this Long Beach sunset here with those radicals going full speed underneath us.
It's so fantastic to have street circuits in iRacing these days. I used to think that it wasn't really possible. That's why we weren't getting the likes of Long Beach and Belle Isle, but it absolutely is, and it was absolutely worth the wait as well. Luke Crowley, meanwhile, is into the pit lane for only 9 seconds here at the end. Well, let's hope he's got enough fuel to get to the end, but we're not even halfway yet in this race, and he was the AM leader. You'd imagine that he has got enough fuel to go to the end, otherwise he wouldn't be doing that, but does raise some questions, I would say, at this early stage in the race for him to be making the final pit stop. Maybe it is going to be fine though. Out of the final corner, meanwhile, for Lassie Sargent, Hubba Gullickson and Christoph Lipp, just up in front is a lapped car, so they'll have to negotiate them, and they will pretty easily this time around. Getting out the way there was Mika Polkelen, I think, although it could be wrong. I think it is. In the 26th for this at the moment, just going lap down for the first time a few moments ago to Christophe Turrein, who is still leading the race, by the way, by nearly 4 seconds. This is the battle for third, though, and I think this is going to be a closer race, actually, than the one maybe for the lead, because other than maybe Gullickson versus Turrein, I suppose, but you know, this is a group of similar pit stop times when you're looking at especially Sorensen and Lipp, but very similar pit stop times. When you look at the others out front, it's very different. This is Javid Niemek, by the way. This might be why he's out the race, unless he's re-emerged. He's having a slide through turn 7, and did he get hit? No, he just was able to get back around again. He is back out onto the circuit, excuse me, so it was a long pit stop only for him. 6 minutes in the box. He's back out now again, 6 laps down.
Yeah, thankfully back out and about there, but 6 laps down. But getting back out on track is important, I would say, especially in this early season. There's nothing wrong with going several laps down, being in the back of the pack, and then just getting things going, especially if you're an AM. That track experience, that experience being around other cars and having cars passing you passing cars if possible, that is important to gather here early in the season. So if round 1 doesn't go your way, you have that little bit more seat time in race conditions to be ready for later through the year. So I don't blame David Niemek for going back out 6 laps down. Definitely, you know, never give up, never surrender, and get things going, because that extra seat time when we get towards that second half of the season could spell the difference between you being down, you know, in that 8th place and battling for the last chance qualifier to the World Championship, or being there automatically. So get things going, keep things moving, and keep things grooving here. Luke Crowley currently in the battle for 21st.
He is indeed, with with Anthony Enger just in behind. They've both made their second pit stop, by the way. These are the leaders of those who've made 2 stops so far. On board, meanwhile, with Stefan Chivera. Oh, he tried to back out, but no, couldn't do it. No, straight into the wall. And that's going to be a long stop for him. Paulie Rattinen also into the pit lane, by the way, for a long stop. Just too late on the brakes down the end of East Seaside Way.
And that, again, you try to turn, but the wheels are locked up. Absolutely nothing you can do. And you can see kind of adding insult to injury there, trying to get the car back around and then hitting the wall again. That suspension, that front end damage. Again, the prototypes, these cars are strong, but only can stand so much of a nose into the wall situation. So having to tow back to pits there. Solly Rattinen, as you said, also having to use a tow back to the pits. Not sure what's happened with Solly Rattinen. We'll see if we can get a little behind the scenes info of what's happened, because that would be the second pit stop for Solly Rattinen, the second tow. Hopefully hasn't used the fast repair yet. Still watching this battle. Look at this here. Benson trying to make a move here with Scarrett. Looking through. Man, you look for a move, but then the wall is right there, and you have to be a little careful to not total the car out here. Ewan, sometimes the best thing to do is have that patience, but we're past halfway race distance, and I will tell you right now that patience is something that it's hard to come by sometimes as a racing driver. Benson here very much on the back foot of that patience, actually battling with David Tartari here. So my apologies. This is the breaking point.
He's missed it completely at turn number 1. He missed it at turn 1 earlier. He's missed it at turn 7 there, or turn 8, I should say. He loses a place in the end, down to 15th, but not particularly ideal for David Tartari that time around. He loses second place in the AM class as it is at the time. A good evening, by the way, to Howard Hassan, who's asking how the Project 91 racing team drivers are doing. Gabriel Berger, as you can see on the left-hand side, is leading in the AM class right now, but still does need to make a second stop, and his first stop was quite short, so he might have a bit of a longer one coming up. There is Berger in number 25, all on his own, which is probably the best place he can be at the moment. The other driver, his teammate Fredrik Sikorsky, unfortunately, he's out of the race. He was our first driver into the DNF column. I think he is DNF'd anyway. He seems to have left the session. He's having a very long stop at the moment, and he seems to have joined Adam Locke in being out of the race. Meanwhile, Kim-Andre Björklund, the pole sitter for this one, is down in 8th, still chasing those up in front as we get 25 minutes to go here. An approach on the second and final pit stops here of the day. You'd imagine Christoph Lipp will be in first, although actually probably James Barry being first of the top 10 or so, because he came in first initially, and he also had the shortest stop. So when he comes in, surely that's the signal that the moment for everybody to come in will be quite soon.
I definitely think it would be. You know, I said this in qualifying, that qualifying at Long Beach was more important than others. Somebody's off on the side of the fountain there. Not sure who that was sitting off as the race leaders come by. This is going to be David Nemec yet again here having a moment. There's a slide through. Sitting in position, thankfully not hit, and trying to get that number 64 rotated back around. This is Christensen. This is who we just saw at the fountain. Looks like the car gets a little wiggle. I don't think there was rear contact there, but that is right into the tire barrier, and that is such a hard position to get the car straightened back out from. You kind of are just there sitting and nothing you can do. You know, I said during qualifying that track position was so important, Ewan, and that really qualifying was more important here at Long Beach than it is at other circuits. And we're really seeing that with Bjorklund here. He's currently sitting P8, was on pole, had one moment there and dropped down to 8th place, and unfortunately just hasn't been able to recover the position at all, and is still sitting P8 for who was our pole sitter.
James Barry does come in, so I mentioned that his pit stop would signify the start of the final stops, and it has now come. James Barry had to get himself out of traffic very early on and pitted on lap 5, I think, on lap 4. It was very early on, and that has now come through to bite him a little bit, as he's had to come into pit lane pretty early. He is very, very fast Radicals driver, that's for sure. He's just in the mid-pack of this opening round, though. I'd imagine that any driver looking to make the World Finals would be pretty pleased to finish in the top 7, if possible, every round, because it is the top 7 who are guaranteed a place straight through to the World Finals without having to go through the extra qualifying week, which comes with its own perils. That goes for people who finish 8th to 14th in the season. So top 7 will be absolutely fine, but they want to win this championship in the points, that's for sure. Christophe Turenne, meanwhile, makes his way out the final corner. 23 minutes to go, and still plenty of time for him to stay out onto the circuit. I reckon it could be, or I reckon he's got the option of another 10 laps. Sebastian Lipp, though, responds and comes in from second.
Yeah, it does not surprise me to sort of see the cork in the bottle pulled here for pit stops going through. A really, as you said it, Ewan, as soon as James Berry decided to pit, everybody was going to follow through. So watch those top 10 continue lap after lap. Larson's now in as we go through. We're watching down in the bottom of James Berry. Let's see where James Berry comes around here through Long Beach. Currently a bit back, a bit of time to be found here going down the back stretch. But I would say by the time we get out of Seaside Way and around, and actually that is a really quick stop for Lipp. 14.9 in the box, a little bit quicker than I was expecting, to be honest. So it looks like some drivers, that pit strategy really playing. Some drivers, again, fluctuating the stints. Some drivers deciding to just split the race directly in thirds and take similar pit stop times. Everyone looking for something different, but we are hitting the point where things kind of just, you throw everything in the snow globe, shake it up, and we'll see where everything settles.
I really like the variability you get, though, in these pit stop times. It's absolutely more difficult than just filling up the tank twice. It's way more interesting than that as Christopher Turenne comes in. I would have thought he'd have a bit more wiggle room again, but he just wants to cover off Sebastian Lipp, I would have thought. We'll see if he can do that. His pit stop might well be a tad longer. 14.9 in the box for Lipp, but it was a bit... 14.8 I've got on mine, but it was a slight shorter stop last time round from Turenne, the long-time race leader in number 58. There is Sebastian Lipp on the bottom of your screen there, by the way. He's 9 seconds ahead of James Barry in number 10, 12.8. So that's a good stop from Turenne there. I think Lipp's actually gone on the long side here from what compared to what he needed. There could be a million things at play, but certainly one of them is that Turenne has had an even shorter pit stop. He's going to end up covering him off quite nicely. Now, he'd like to get out ahead of Eric Benson here. Is he going to manage it? There's going to be a thing in towards turn 1, and Benson just get through. Turenne went slightly wide. I'm not sure it mattered, but he's in a little bit of traffic here to begin with in this final stint of the race.
Honestly, I kind of think Turenne left the room there for Benson to get through. I think didn't want to end up side by side through Toyota and Fountain, and was just very polite with that wider exit out of the pits through turn 1. Definitely appeared that way to me, but as you said, a million different things could be coming to play with that. That pit entry too, we haven't even touched on that pit entry, but that pit entry is a little bit scary when you think about it. You're coming out of a hairpin, and then you just have to completely rip the car to the right and dive basically a 90-degree angle into the pits.
It is quite scary. I don't know why they don't just put the pit entry out of turn 10, to be honest, before the hairpin. But anyway, on the bottom of your screen is the, we think, race leader or will be race leader, Christophe Turenne. Should stay ahead of Christophe Lipp here, and Andre Butland and George Gonzaga, who are all into pit lane. You can see Lipp there in the number 1 car, a little bit further down pit lane, 13 seconds in the box for him. He is going to be beaten out of the pit lane by Turenne, that is for sure. Where is he going to come out in relation to Sebastian Lipp, though? Let's find out at the top of your screen. Sebastian Lipp goes through pretty easily. Where's Lasse Sorensen? He's going to go through in the green there quite easily as well. Louis Gregg just in behind. He'll get out ahead of him, but Lasse Sorensen quite a long way ahead of Christophe Lipp. I said that would be a battle to watch because they had similar pit stop times. In the end, Lasse Sorensen's very much come out on top in that small fight.
For sure, big advantage there to Sorensen as we check back in with Gullikson. Gullikson, it doesn't look like peeling off into the pits yet, is going to maintain another lap as our race leader, but does still need to pit again. Your top 3, Gullikson, Frederick, and Saltero, all still need to pit here. Turenne is the first car that is your quote-unquote leader as it stands. There's your pit stops there on the left on the timing tower. Benson still needs to pit. Kirkonopoulos still needs to pit in. So your 1, 2, 3 as it stands is Turenne, Lipp, and Sorensen, and we'll see if Christophe Lipp can get past Sorensen. That's going to be a very tight battle towards the end, Ewan. I'd say Borkland and Barry will also be a battle to watch towards the end if they can get close enough to each other to really have that fight.
Yeah, for those asking in YouTube where and who needs to make pit stops, then that is your answer. Luke Crowley is the first of the AMs who has made 2 pit stops so far. He's kind of gone away from our cameras a little bit through the midpoint in the races. The AMs has really been stretched apart by these different pit stops. Benson at the moment, 5th place, is about 25 seconds or so ahead of Crowley. So surely going through the pit lane and doing the fuel filling that he needs to, Mary Benson's going to come out behind Luke Crowley, who we think is still going to be the race leader. There are your movers again. It is those 2 who haven't stopped yet inside the top 10 who have moved furthest forward. Just shows that those who were fastest have qualified pretty well out front. Say the drivers who've made most progress again are just drivers who haven't stopped yet for a second time. And Gullickson, by the way, has the option of waiting quite a long time. His pit stop first time around was very long. And I'm not even sure the others ran their tanks dry compared to where they could have got to in this race. So Gullickson could really motor on here for another few laps here if he wants to, and then see where he comes out in relation to Christopher Train, who's currently running round with heavier fuel, and that might play into Gullickson's hands.
Yeah, Gullickson has a 21-second gap back to Christopher, so we'll see. Yeah, I hadn't even considered that as an option, to be honest, in my head, as I had kind of done the math through. I hadn't thought about the fact that Gullickson took an 18.2-second pit stop 21 laps ago through way early in the session. So as we get near the end here, if Gullickson only needs to stop for a few seconds of fuel, could still be a contender for a very strong position here in the end to run through. Maybe not for P3, but still could be on for a podium. We'll see where Gullickson is able to get things through as Andreas Frederick is into the pits here from 2nd place.
He was one of our biggest movers, but part of that was down to a lack of a second pit stop, which he is now making. Sotero still needs to make one. So does Benson, Kirakopoulos as well, as we've talked about, and Louis Gregg. But that's pretty much it of those on the left-hand side. Frederick stops in his box. Lights flash as he's got the pit limiter on. How long is the stop going to be? 10.6 so far, and so he's going to drop down the field, but where to? Sebastian Lipp's going to be next of those who has already stopped, but he's still got quite a long way around the pit lane to go just yet. Lipp will get through then. What about Lashley Sorensen and Christoph Lipp as well, as they come right down in towards turn number 1? So watch for them on the right-hand side. They've already gone through, and so Andreas Fredericks will be in behind. He will be ahead of James Barry, though, just about. Side by side, Louis Craig just gets through. There's James Barry, just in the 11th place. It will be a battle for a top 10 place in a few moments' time.
I think James Barry is really going to be putting some pressure on here too as we go through. I don't think James Barry is going to take it lightly here, because looking for that top 10 here early on would be great for James Barry to start the season off in a top 10 in a very competitive field of radicals. And with 15 minutes to go, there's still plenty of time to put the pressure, but if you can get somebody right off the pit lane, you kind of take the control away there and you set the tone, and then from that point you're just defending. We jump up with Christoph Lipp, who is still putting some pressure here on Sorensen. This is going to be a dive to the inside, pass done and dusted. Good move there up into P7 for Christoph Lipp.
Is there going to be a response from Lasse Sorensen? These two locking horns again right at the end of or the start of 2025, just as they were at the end of last year, in towards the first turn again. Sorensen's not close enough, I don't think, for this, in towards turn 1, and that pass there did suggest to me just a little bit Christoph Lipp just has the edge towards the end of this race now. Last quarter of an hour of this one is upon us, and yet Christoph Lipp is or maybe does have the measure of Lasse Sorensen. Meanwhile, Andreas Frederick has got through on Louis Gregg, and James Barry needs to do the same to not allow Frederick to get too far up in front.
Yeah, we'll see if Louis Gregg can do that here as we go. James Barry, all of the pressure there on the back of Louis Gregg, trying to get the move done to keep Borkland behind as well. This is the big thing. You're in the middle of the sandwich there. You're being attacked from the rear, and you've got someone in front of you after you as Gullickson is into the pits here, Ewan.
Here we go. This is the moment for the race now. We think Trevor will still be in front, but how short could this pit stop be for Gullickson? It's going to be shorter because the fuel fill from the first stop was a bit longer. Only 9.6. Here comes Gullickson out the pit lane. He's got a little bit of a way to go yet, just before the entrance line, and there you go. Trevor is in front here. He's been in the clean air for the most of this race, and that has really played into his hands. Look back now for Gullickson. Where's he going to be in relation to the others? Sebastian Lipp on the inside line is going to go through in towards turn number 1. A bit of a slide as well. He goes wide. It doesn't matter that Kira Kapoulos gets through for the moment, but it does matter for him later that Sebastian Lipp, has now dropped behind him. He went wide through turn 1 as well. This is the battle for second place. It should be a little bit later on, and Lipp has invited Gullickson into this battle for second.
He held the door open, rolled out the red carpet, greeted him with a good cheese cracker in hand and said, come on, let's play. Let's play the game here. Oscar Soltero in the lead by 20 seconds, but still needs to pit. This is your battle for all of the marbles. This is for the remaining podium places. This battle is going to get very hard. Gullickson up the inside of Sebastian Lipp, gets the pass done, and Christoph Lipp not far behind now. We'll see if that number 1 of Christoph Lipp gets any sort of leeway from Sebastian Lipp. I would imagine that they'll play nice with each other and maybe try to help each other a little bit with Gullickson to try to end up with the 2 family members up on the second and third place of the podium. You wouldn't blame them if they do, but Gullickson is going to fight it tooth and nail to the end.
And there you go. Sebastian's just going to let his brother through there. Wow, that's a decisive moment. Christoph Lipp has really started to get into his stride in this final half an hour of this race, and you know, I do agree that he's quicker. He might actually be the quickest driver on the circuit at this stage, to be honest, because he is motoring. But for Sebastian Lipp to so obviously and visibly to everybody else let Christoph through like that was very telling about where they are in this race. We're still waiting, by the way, for Oscar Soltero to come in. He's running out front on low fuel with still 11.5 minutes to go. He's flashing the lights of these guys in front to try and get out the way. It's Davide Tattare and Alexander Skerrett who are just up in front of him, by the way, here. Lap traffic playing a big role again, and Tattare does indeed get out the way in towards turn number 1. Soltero still going out front, still leading some more laps.
Yeah, Soltero, I think, is going to take this within 10 minutes to go before pitting here, at least, if not even further, as we have Kirkopoulos getting passed by Gullickson. We'll see if Kirkopoulos gives any room to Christoph and Sebastian Lipp to go by, with Kirkopoulos still needing to pit, the other cars around not needing to make that second mandatory pit stop here. So is there going to be any politeness played? I would imagine not. Let's be honest, they're race car drivers. They don't care. 1 stop, 2 stop. It's 4 position on the leaderboard. They're going to be looking for it as it stands. The one thing I do want to point out here, Ewan, you said that Christoph Lipp has really hit stride here. Christoph Lipp, Frederick is backwards.
He was just trying to hold off the likes of James Parry and some of the others, and he's gone for a spin through turn 1. He needs to try and get out the middle of the road here and get going again, and he will do now, just in front of George Gonzaga in 14th place. That's a lap car that's just immediately behind, but not ideal at all for number 14 to end up in 14th for spin out of turn number 1.
Dropped so many positions there too. That is unfortunate to see there into turn 1. Tricky there in the end. As we get the replay here of what happened, it was a tap and then another tap.
Now, was that Barry who delivered the final blow with the he is in a very similar looking car to that one. I think it is James Barry, you know.
And James Barry doing it.
Full 360 and carries on.
James Barry said, okay, that's fine. As James Barry, it looks like, has now possibly had a moment of his own there in the number 10, dropping down the leaderboard there. It's hard to tell there, as Sebastian Lipp has also had a moment dropping down past Sorensen, getting passed into turn 1. I'm still really trying to keep my eyes here, and this is what happened with Barry. There it is. There's a spin around and then just rolls into the tire barrier there.
Pretty uncharacteristic mistake there through turn 10 for James Barry, who now drops to 13th place in the field. And this, meanwhile, is Luke Crowley, just ahead of Anthony Eng, who has been running right behind him for quite a long time. Crowley should be the leader of the AM class when the pit stops work themselves out, but another great thing about the way that we've got 2 mandatory pit stops here, and and whatever as well, is that you can go very deep into the second stint, and you can pit very late at the very end of at the end of the race. So we're still waiting for Soltero to come in, and Eric Benson, and we still don't know who's going to come out on top. Finally, Benson does now come in. All data so far suggesting that Luke Crowley will be in the lead, but now we'll get visual confirmation of that in a few moments' time.
Yeah, and Karakopoulos into the pits as well in that number 34 Radical. So let's see who's where. Benson stopped for only never mind. A little bit longer in the box here going through. How long will Benson be stopped? It does look like Crowley should get the move done very clean, but only 7 seconds in the box, so should be a comfortable second place for Benson, I believe. Going through 7.3 for Karakopoulos as well. So very short pit times, but as you said, Ewan, here at the end of the race, you just need enough fuel to get to the end, and running 7 minutes in a Radical, it doesn't take a lot. I do want to point out with lap times though, fastest lap of the race, a 1:13.9. Christoph Lipp set it on the last lap at 1:14.27 for Gullikson. So Christoph Lipp is a driver on a mission here with a pass.
And he is going through. Christoph Lipp, that will be for second place in a few moments' time. But Christoph Lipp is through. It was down at the end of the back straight towards turn 9 where Christoph Lipp got through. Now Håvard Gullikson's going to try and strike back immediately. This is the chance, really. You can't let him get into his groove again here. You've got to attack him straight away here. And Gullikson's going to try and do that with Christoph Lipp in the mirrors, looking, defending in towards turn 1. At least interrupt his line into here and try to not let him get too far away. Gullikson, that's got to be the strategy, but with 7 minutes to go, it's going to be really hard for him to get that place back again. It looks like Christoph Lipp has got second place for good.
Does Gullikson have enough in the tank here to really try to fight back against Lipp? That is my question, and I think the answer to that is going to be a very, very well-rounded no. And the other thing that we haven't looked at is Soltero is still out and about and running here, and with Soltero possibly only looking at about 35 seconds in the box, or in the lane, 40 seconds in the lane here, Soltero could magically jump into the mix of this battle as well, depending on where Soltero comes out. And Soltero is in with just 6.5 minutes left to go. Ewan, this race is absolutely a nail biter.
A deep breath for Soltero as he pulls into the box now. No surprises that Christopher Travain will get out in front. But after 5.9 seconds, Soltero removes himself from the box. Travain will go through. Christoph Lipp and Gullikson will go through as well. But where's he going to come out in the midst of all this? He's going to be ahead of Bjorklund, I think. He could even be in the top 5, Soltero. And to be fair, Lipp and Gullikson were actually a bit closer than I thought. There they go on the left-hand side. Soltero's going to be 4th. What a great strategy from him, running as long as possible through the first and second stints, pitting with just 6 minutes to go. He's P4 now in the number 122, ahead of Lasse Sorensen, by the way. And Oscar Soltero can be very pleased, I think, with his strategic calls here tonight.
I don't know that I'd count Soltero out of a podium place here. Soltero, when Soltero was up front, was putting in absolute stellar lap times, 1:14.1s pretty consistently. So still a little bit faster than Gullikson and Lipp. And if anything happens between those two and any sort of elbow out moments happen, I think the Nix Esports driver will be very, very happy with the result. 4th is great, but I still don't know if I'd discount a podium here because Soltero, plenty of pace, Ewan, plenty of things to go. Anything can happen here. I think really that 2nd, 3rd, 4th place is very up for grabs still.
It's pretty close. From Lipp, 9.5 seconds off the lead, to Bjorklund, it's only 20 seconds off the lead. That's 10 seconds covering 6 drivers. And then Larson and Crowley are not that far behind. We've Anthony Enger as well, so it is close. Christoph Lipp, though, does look a bit more secure in second place. I've got to say, Håvard Gullikson not quite able to challenge him quite as much, and you can certainly understand that. But Christoph Lipp's going to be kicking himself about the first part of the race, I think, and feeling that he maybe could have done better if he'd had a better first part to this one. Eric Benson, meanwhile, back up to 11th, then of James Barry, then it's George Gonzaga in 13th place. Barry, though, with a very good run out of the final corner. He's actually been flashing his lights at people, but because he's around others, he doesn't know his headlights are off at the moment, and Gonzaga is certainly going to go past him here. Or indeed, are the headlights out? Because he's certainly got damage here, James Barry, and through goes Gonzaga with ease here.
Yeah, James Berry carrying some sort of front end damage here. Hasn't had a good time. You can see it there with the curb on turn 1. Really, these radicals should not have a big issue with those turn 1 curbs. Long Beach isn't a track where the curbs, hurt you. They typically help you in turning.
Whoa.
James Berry again fighting the car. Again, down the backstretch we go. Not looking very comfortable here, but only 3 minutes 45 seconds. James Berry just has to nurse it to the end here, but I think James Berry is going to lose a few positions, but it's better to lose a few positions and still finish on track than it would be to pit and just absolutely lose out on everything here.
You're absolutely right. Gullikson is coming again. I thought Christoph Lipp was secure in second, but no. I'm going to be eating my words in a few moments' time. Gullikson having another chance in towards turn 1, couldn't do it. Now into the fountain section. He's pretty close, but not close enough. Now through turn 4 and then 5 onto West Shoreline Drive. 3 minutes to go. We should get perhaps another 3 laps here, maybe only 2. We'll see when we get to the line, but Gullikson hasn't got very many chances to go.
Gullikson does not. Gullikson trying to take advantage of any opportunity that can be set up. As I said earlier, sometimes you start the lap before to set it up, but when you've got limited laps to go, you don't have time for setup. You don't have time to think about it. If you see the move, you've got to stomp on the brakes, do the late brake, dive to the inside, and make something stick. Borkland has gotten past Sebastian Lipp in the background. Gonzaga has gotten past Benston in the background. This battle, though, Lipp and Gullikson, this is going to be down to the wire here, and it's all about this run out of the hairpin down the main straight here of Shoreline Drive. What can you do here? And the answer is Gullikson just doesn't have the run out of the corner.
I think it's 3 laps to go, by the way. It's going to be very close to whether Christopher Terrain and his speed has given us an extra lap for this race. And Hubert Gullikson will certainly be hoping that it has. Through turn 1 they go. And he's not close enough this time round, but there's traffic up ahead that might well just offer him an opportunity. Only the top 19, by the way, are still on the lead lap here, although many further down have had problems. This is Davide Tattari, unfortunately, having some more problems. Braking too late again, as he did at turn 1 earlier. This time down at turn 9. I can tell you that additionally to the retirements we had earlier, Stefan Siveria is out the race along with Damien G and Rudolf Nagel as well. So that's 5 retirements from the 37 to start this race, but it's pretty good numbers, to be honest, for us to get to the end. 32 out of 37, so we're into the final 90 seconds of this race.
Yeah, 32 out of 37, not a bad run at all. James Berry, still no headlights here on this Sunset Long Beach as we go through, continue along, but it's still fighting, trying to find that P13 against Gunster Brocken, if possible. Frederick in 15th behind, still possibly looking to get the move done and dusted here. James Berry just really trying to limp this car home at this point with that front end damage and do the best that James Berry can to get this car to the end as we go. Really, Christopher Taverin has impressed me. 10.4 seconds to the good here on Christoph Lipp. It's been a standout round 1 here as we're under 50 seconds to go.
And is it the white flag lap or not? It's pretty close. Eric Benson from second in the outclass has gone off down at turn 9, and now James Berry's gone for a spin as well, just 1 corner later. That's what happened to him earlier, although he didn't have damage at the time. Now he's spun round and he's dropping down at the field for some more legitimate positions here. So through goes Benson and Gabriel Berger, by the way, which is going to be a battle for second in AM because of this. Benson went too deep into turn 9, had to get into reverse gear before getting himself back onto the circuit again. Meanwhile, Christopher Taverin is into the final few corners at the moment. Is he seeing the checker flag waved in front of him, or is it going to be the white? There's still seconds remaining. 1 more lap to go. White flag for Christopher Taverin.
Bonus lap that I'm worried some drivers may not have calculated as we have a Kirkopoulos here into the wall in the fountain section. We'll be thankful to know that it's this lap and 1 more, because that's a big moment. But Taverin into turn 1. This is the replay of James Berry. We saw this live, but seeing the replay, you can tell just the rear end has nothing left to give. Gullikson Lipp side by side.
Oh! Contact! Lipp there was stern in his defence on the inside, and Gullikson won't be pleased about the way he was shown the outside wall there. Sotero trying to get involved as well. He's too far back, but Gullikson was fed the wall there by Christoph Lipp.
That was the wall for dinner, and that was Lip saying, remember this in November. Wow, that was aggressive racing. We'll see if Gullickson has enough time to get close enough for a response. If Gullickson can get near Lip, I have a feeling that the favor will be very quickly repaid. Meanwhile, our race leader is coming around the hairpin.
It may have to wait for another time because Christopher Train is into the final few corners at the moment. The checker flag is in hand this time round. And Christopher Train, the opening round of the Radical Sim Racing European Championship in 2025 here at Long Beach goes to him. Christopher Train with a dominant drive, a good strategy, but more importantly, consistently strong pace has given him the win by some distance here in the Pro Class tonight. Luke Crowley, meanwhile, further down, has overcome all of the strategic minefields of the midpoint of this race to just again put on some dominant speed. It's much the similar story here in the AM class as well. Luke Crowley comes up towards the line and he is going to win in the AM class this time around in a bit of a photo finish as well, I think, with one of his B Team Racing teammates. Indeed it was, as they worked their way over the line. Eric Benson should finish second ahead of Gabriel Berger, but there is a battle going on here right to the end. There's a car between them though, and Benson will hang on. That was drama to end this opening round of the season.
That was fireworks and a good way to kick off the season as it stands, picking up right where they left off in 2024 here in 2025. We'll see what happens with that. We'll see if there's any sort of a protest or penalty that comes out of that, because here's the thing, you have some opportunity to file a protest after, and then of course stewards will review post-race. We'll see if there's anything that comes through on that. I don't know why there would be, but man, that was some good running through. What a way to kick off the season, Ewan.
Fantastic. Christophe Travain wins the opening round here from Long Beach ahead of Christoph Lipp, who had that incident with Harvey Gullickson at the end there. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to them about it in a few moments' time. Oscar Soltero finishes fourth with Lasse Sorensen rounding out the top five. Polster to Kim-Andre Bjorklund finished sixth ahead of Sebastian Lipp, who dropped back a bit towards the end. He only just finished ahead of Kjetil Larsen. Luke Crowley winning the AMS in ninth overall ahead of Anthony Lendorf in 10th. George Gonzaga was 11th, that ahead of Mads Kerström-Bakken. It was Andreas Frederick next, just holding off Eric Benson, who was also holding off Gabriel Berger. They were the last two on the podium in AM. Alexander Skaret was 16th, but of James Barry, Dennis Kyrikopoulos and Louis Gregg on the lead lap. Ian Bremer was the first driver, one lap down. He'll be hoping to bounce back in 3 weeks' time. Davide Tattari finished 21st alongside Mika Henrik Hulkkonen. They were the last drivers, one lap down. 2 laps down was Henry Hollings, David Royston, Robert Walker and Menno de Graaf. Ken-Andre Christensen started those 3 laps down, along with Stefan Mellis, Sully Rattinen and Guy Robertson rounding out the top 30. Graham Matthew was 4 laps down, with David Niemek eventually getting to the end after some long stops for him. Rudolf Nagel, Damien G, Stefan Schreiber, Adam Lott, Franek Sikorsky all retired throughout the race. Let's have a chat to Luke Crowley first of all, the AM winner here tonight from Long Beach. Congratulations, Luke, on the win in AM. I've got to say that from a spectator's point of view, the mid part of the race was very exciting, but also a little bit topsy-turvy in the way that we were trying to read strategy. Lots of different pit stop times, lengths going on, and different laps that you were coming in as well. How were you reading the mid part of the race as a driver, figuring out what strategy was best to get you to the end of the race?
Honestly, there was so much going on. I didn't really pay that much attention to it, to be honest. I just kind of pitted when I needed to. I took a little bit of damage through my own mistake, and thought it's best to pit right then. And it was just inside the fuel window for the last pit. But other than that, I was just trying to keep a steady race going. All the walls and everything, it's very, very difficult. So it's more of a race of attrition than anything.
Yeah, how are you reading this going into this race, as it being a season opener here at Long Beach?
Yeah, it's one of the tough ones, isn't it, for a season opener? So I was like, okay, but yeah, it's good to get this one out of the way, to be honest. Maybe we'll get some proper tracks later on.
Oh, controversial. And just lastly, aims for the season now that you've kicked it off with a win?
We'll keep winning. For sure. I'd like to be up the pointy end of the AMS class if I can be, and maybe get somewhere in the team one as well.
Silly question, really. Congratulations on winning, and thanks for coming to have a chat with us afterwards as well.
All right, cheers, guys.
Thanks very much. Luke Crowley there, the winner in the AMS here tonight in the opening round of the Radical Sim Racing European Championship here at Long Beach. Let's have a chat to Christoph Lipp next, who finished in second place in the end, but it wasn't without its battles throughout. Congratulations, Christoph, on starting the 2025 campaign with a second place finish here in the European Championship. I want to talk right about the very end of the race. First of all, you were battling with Gullikson right to the very end of that race. Just tell us about your battle in those final few laps.
Yeah, was a completely messy race from the beginning with surprising qualifying, and yeah, at the end I had no tires left and made a big mistake in the exit of the hairpin. Then Harvard came, I defended the inside, both brake late, and then I lose it a little bit. The rear is coming, I have to open, and unfortunately I do that mistake, and for that he's going to the wall. So sorry for that. I haven't spoken to him yet, but yeah, I just watched it in the replay, and he did nothing wrong, and that was my mistake there. It was not intentionally.
Well, a big respect for owning up to the error, certainly. But you seem to get stronger as the race went on in that one, to me. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were really making up lots of places towards the end. Would you agree that maybe you got stronger towards the end of the race? How did you feel in the car?
It went up and down. The beginning was okay. I was just driving in the train on, I don't know, 4th place or something, until Kim crashed, and I crashed him, and I needed to pit because I had a damage on the car. And then with a full tank, it was a bit difficult to get to the pace. So when the tank got more empty, I achieved my normal pace, and I could keep that most of the time during the race. But I had some stupid mistakes in there. So I can be happy that I made P2 then in the end.
Well, absolutely. Congratulations on finishing second tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us after the race as well.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks very much. Christoph Lipp there, finishing second place here tonight at Long Beach. The reason we went to him first, by the way, is because Christopher Terrain wasn't quite ready yet, but he is now, and we can bring him in. Christopher, congratulations on winning the first round of the season here at Long Beach. How does it feel to take the opening round?
Wow, that was some crazy race, I would say. I'm happy taking the win, of course. Yeah, it's my first race in this series, so happy for that. But that was a crazy race with all the cars, and you really had to be careful around the track. So yeah, it was a tough one, but happy with it, yeah.
Yeah, crazy place to start the season as well, considering this is round number 1. What were you expecting, though, from tonight, and indeed the rest of the season, being relatively new to the series, as it?
It's going to be, of course, very tight racing, I think. You see the lap times from practice. I think we got a bit surprised with the open qualifiers. I think many people got a bit unlucky. But for the rest of the season, I think it's going to be very tight. And yeah, you have to really practice beforehand, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Congratulations on the win, though, Christopher, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That was race winner tonight, Christopher Terrain, in the top spot at the end of tonight's race at Long Beach. Harvard Gullikson is also ready to chat to us as well from 3rd place overall. Harvard, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Just talk us through your side of the story from your battle with Christoph. I imagine you might have just been speaking to him there just before you came to chat with us. Late battle between you two. How would you describe it, those final few laps?
Oh, it was a good battle, and he just lost it in turn 1, and it's easy mistake to do. So we will fight on.
Absolutely, and we'll fight on through the rest of the season as well. Still 9 more rounds to go before the end of the season, if you like, the end season bits. How are you or what are you expecting from the season? What are you aiming for?
Always aiming for as high as possible. Today I did a mistake with the fueling, so I filled up the tank completely on the first pit stop. So yeah, bad call, some problems with the overlay or something. But yeah, I'm happy with P3.
Well, congratulations on a podium tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. That's Harvey Gullickson there in third place here tonight overall. We can also chat with third place in the AM class, Gabriel Berger. It doesn't look like Eric Benson's able to join us, unfortunately, so we'll chat to Gabriel Berger next. Gabriel, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Third place here in the AM class. Couldn't quite get Eric at the end, but how are you feeling with third?
Yeah, very happy, considering at the start of the race was probably my most embarrassing moment ever, where I forgot to turn the engine on. So last place going into turn one, pitting at the end of the first lap just to get all the traffic out of the way. I'm pretty happy with P3 in the end.
I like how you blame the engineers in the Discord, by the way. I did see that. That's maybe giggle. What are you expecting from this season? Maybe if you get off to some better starts. We did notice you come in early on, and I'd imagine it slightly narrowed your options for strategy a little bit later on in the race. I would imagine. What are you expecting from the rest of this season?
Well, I finished runner-up last year in the previous season, so a win would be nice, but the competition looks pretty strong. We've got some really fast guys up at the pointy end of the field, so kind of anything in the top 5, top 10 would be a good result, but we'll have to wait and see.
We certainly will. Congratulations on the podium tonight in the AM class, and thanks for chatting to us as well. That was Gabriel Berger there in third place tonight in the AM class. Well, Brad, what a way to start the season. I'd imagine a lot of people would have been apprehensive at best about Long Beach, first of all, but I think it worked pretty well as a season opener, and it set us up for the next 9 rounds before the postseason rather well.
Yeah, I think every driver had a mega drive in one way or another here today. It really kind of set the expectations for the season on a track that is very tricky in ways, but it really, really makes me excited to see what this European Championship can bring here in the Radicals, especially when you look at the next few rounds, and the next round being the Nürburgring Grand Prix. It's going to be mega, Ewan, absolutely mega.
It is 23rd of March. We'll be live for the next round of the European Championship in 2025. 9 p.m. CET will be live for that one. Take note, by the way, the Americas Championship will be starting before that, though, in exactly 7 days' time at a slightly later start time. I think it's just after 1 a.m. CET, if you're awake. We'll be starting with the Americas Championship. That's at the Nürburgring Nordside, on the 9th of March. So if you can join us for that, then please do here on RaceSpotTV. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Brad Dalton with Hugo Louise behind the cameras of this RaceSpotTV broadcast for the opening round of the Radical SimRacing European Championship in 2025. The next round for the European Championship will stop off at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit on March 23rd. Very much hope to see you then. But for now, it's goodbye and see you at the Nürburgring.